Hello and welcome to my 1985 Corolla FXGT. This is a JDM car and I have the original brochure listing all the specs and features. Today I want to give you a tour of the condition of the car and show you some of those features and to test them out to see how many of them work and how many of them still need to be addressed. So starting off, this is the FXGT, which came with the highest output motor, which is the 4AGE 16 valve. On here it lists as 130 PS, which is roughly about I think like 122 horsepower. It does make more power than the American FX16, and that might have a lot to do with the fact that it does not have one of those flappy door air meters on there. This car has had its wheels changed out to Volks TE37s. These are period correct TE37s. They're not brand new, they're ones from kind of more the age of the car. Exterior wise, the car is very complete. It's just kind of how it comes from the factory. The exhaust on here is still stock and it's got a huge hole in it and it needs to be replaced. I'm kind of thinking of putting like an HKS or something. I was hoping that you guys can give suggestions in the comments, and the one that gets the most votes is the one that I think I'll put on the car. And this brochure, it does list all the cool features that the car has, which is four-wheel independent suspension. It also has four-wheel disc brakes, which is really pretty trick for 1985 when most cars had drum brakes in the rear. This was the highest level Corolla of the time, and it was competing against the AE86 and the MR2. Of the three cars that were 4AG powered, this was the lightest chassis. Let's move on to the interior, because the interior is really quite special in this car. Opening the door, you're greeted by this wonderful seat. So this isn't the standard seat that comes in the car. This is actually the special 7-way adjustable seat. So some of the things that you can adjust in are the standard reclining features. So recline the seat back and forward. You can scooch the seat forward and back as well. The headrest moves up and down and it tilts forward and back. So that's some of the more basic ones that you're used to. But what's not usual here is that this extends out and lets you adjust the seat height. So you can move it to the higher up position. And on the side over here, there are some levers here that actually let you adjust the seat, so you can adjust the lumbar through 4 different settings. And you also have adjustable wings, so depending on how thick you are in the middle, it can grip you tighter or looser depending on what you prefer. And of course, it's got these cool grab bars on the sides, so that way the rear passengers can hang on. The rear seats are reclining, which is different from the American version. When you pull this tab, you can not only completely recline them down, but they have multiple settings, so a little more upright, a little bit more back, or all the way back. Thank you to John for getting me these headrests. This was something I was missing in the back, and he was able to get them for me. Coming back here to the front, you're greeted by this wonderful steering wheel that's leather wrapped, and it just feels so good in the hand. And this twin cam 16 in the middle reminds you you're driving something special. This car came with the electric package, which gave you electric windows, locks, mirrors, and it also has an electric sunroof. So let's go through and just kind of test all of them out here. Put the car into the on position. So the driver's door window, fully functional. Passenger window, it's a little sticky, but it works as well. Window lock switch, so that way the passenger door can't be opened or closed if you got pesky kids or something that are messing with the windows. You have electric locks, so you can lock and unlock the car with just the ease of pushing a button, which sometimes works. The electric door locks are a little bit sticky. They probably just need to be lubed up or something, but they're putting in the effort. Make sure we'll leave it unlocked so I don't lock myself in the car again like I did the first time when I tried to record this. That was pretty stressful when I left the keys in the car, locked the door, and then suddenly I was like, uh-oh, I need to break into this car. Oh my God. Oh my God. Over on the right-hand side, you have the rear wiper controller, which does work. But the pump for the rear washer fluid does not work. I hear the pump pumping, but I don't know if it can't pick it up or if it's blocked up or something. You have the parking light switch here. What the parking light switch does is it just turns on the parking lights on the outside of the car, but it leaves the dash turned off. So that way, if you're parked on the street or if you're on the side of like a freeway or something, people can see you, but you don't drain the battery as quickly. So that's the Japanese mandated parking light. On the right-hand stick here are the headlight controls. The headlights are functional, so are all the lights. The blinkers work right and left. Something that does not stay functional all the time is the high beams. So the high beams do not always work, which is kind of an odd thing. It works when you're popping it that way, but when you put it forward, if you hit a bump, they turn on and off. Something I'm definitely gonna have to investigate because I do like using high beams. Hazard switch. On the left-hand side, you have the wipers. So you have low, high, and the spray. On the left-hand side is the rear defroster. That does work. Below that, you have the electric mirror controls. Still works. And then the passenger side still works. Awesome. Digital clock, totally functional. You have the HVAC controls, so you can adjust that. The fan speed works, but does not work in the highest speed setting. It's something I'm gonna have to look into for sure. And also this guy has kind of crumbled, which I have a fix for already. I have a new plate ready to be installed. I just need to put it in. Air conditioning, I'm so happy to report, is fully functional in this car. It's like a godsend. The older me regrets ripping out the AC out of my FX16 because it makes that car so difficult to drive in the heat, especially during the middle of the summer. Below the HVAC controls is this lovely radio. It's the tape deck that came as a special deal for the FXGTs. It is functional, sort of. It lights up wonderfully. Has these manual EQ controls here. It's such a treat to the eyes to look at. The unfortunate thing is that the tape deck does not work currently. You put the tape in and it does not spin it. So it might be either like the belts are gone or something's jammed up. I am wanting to keep it as it is, so I'm gonna probably just take it apart, see what's wrong with it and try to get it fixed because I definitely want to keep it in here. Below that is the ashtray. Then you have a cool little cubby hole here where you can keep your things such as like your phone. It actually fits phones very nicely. 5-speed gearbox down here. Gear selection is wonderful. No gear pop-outs. I mean, it's just a lovely, lovely transmission. Then you have a nice manual handbrake right here, and a couple of coin spots that you can hold some coins if you need them. And you have a dual layer center console. So there's a upper level here, and then you open another lever and there's a deeper hole there. You can keep your stuff in there. Over on the passenger side, there is of course the standard glove box. And next to the glove box is this really cool Japanese feature, which is a flare, emergency flare. It's like this thing was from the year 2000, so it's like about 24 years old now. It still looks all right. I bet it still works, but I'm not gonna mess with it. It's just gonna stay there as an aesthetic feature to kind of remind myself that this is indeed a Japanese vehicle if sitting on the right side wasn't enough. Up top here, you have the sunroof controls. So this button opens and closes the sunroof. You have the little dome light in the front. I have not opened the sunroof. I'm terrified of opening it. I think that if I open it, it's never gonna close again and I'm just gonna have leaks like crazy. It's gonna be a huge bummer. Over back here is the center dome light. It does not work when you open the door. It does work when you put it in the on position. I think it's something wrong here because when I open the door light does open up, indicating that it is registering the door being opened. But there's just something up in here. It's probably some sort of wiring thing or some deal. Let's open the hatch and just take a quick peek in there. So you got the two controls down here for the fuel door, and then you have the control for the hatch. The rear hatch, pretty straightforward. Once you popped it, it opens up. You have a lot of room back here. Surprising amount of room. You got 2 speakers. You have the spare wheel is located underneath this little cardboard deal, and you have another little light in the cargo area. Something different on the Japanese cars, it does not have the center brake light. So the FX16 has an extra piece that kind of pops onto here for the center stoplight, but in this it just has the rear brakes on there. And then the other difference is that the American one has the license plate lights mounted on the sides, while the Japanese one has the lights on the bumper. Something else that's different is that the bumpers on the Japanese car are much more tighter and petite. They're these kind of cute little deals that don't stick out very far. The American ones kind of sticks out really far. In the engine bay, you have the 4AG 16 valve engine. Pretty much stock. The only difference here is that it has the ultra power ignition wires. The Japanese engine did not use a flappy door, it used the map sensor, so that helped free up the intake there. So there's a big difference in power between the Japanese and the American one. Interesting that the Japanese engine also revved higher. So the American one redlined at 7,500, while the Japanese one went up to 7,700 RPMs. The factory strut bar that mounts up against the firewall has been replaced with this custom unit. It was made as a one-off just for this car. You'll notice the battery has these funky adapters on there. That's because the Japanese batteries use pencil tips on their batteries, which are a lot smaller than the American ones. So instead of chopping things up and finding custom batteries, I just got these little adapters. They get the job done and let me use American batteries without cutting up the original harness. The condition of the engine bay is decent, but there are some noticeable cracks on the intake here. The clutch fluid looks a little dark. That's probably gonna need to be addressed. It's got this cool TRD radiator cap, and when I checked the fluid, it was very nice to see that it has the Toyota red radiator fluid. Another issue that I have is that the power steering makes a horrible whining sound. I suspect that it probably just needs more power steering fluid. Interesting deal with the Toyotas is that they don't use power steering fluid in their power steering system. It uses their ATF fluid. So keep that in mind if you're ever servicing your power steering in a Toyota. Check to see if it's actually using power steering fluid or if it's using ATF. Another major concern with this car is that the steering feel and braking is a little sketchy. And I ended up diagnosing the reason why. So you see the steering wheel has got a lot of movement here, but the wheels aren't moving very much. Let me get the jack and I'll show you exactly what's wrong there. So if you have a listen, there's a lot of wheel wobble, and it's the same thing on the other side. I've diagnosed that it's the inner tie rods that have so much play. So there was like about a ½ inch of movement on both of the front wheels, which explains the slightly funky steering feel right now, and it kind of pulls to whichever direction it feels like. The struts are looking a little bit parched. I'll probably be addressing that a little bit later, but for now I got things on order for new brakes, new tie rods inside and outside, new brakes for the rear as well. Just a lot of little parts to kind of address. I'm gonna do a full brake service, deal with that power steering, get this car back to 100%. I'm really excited about this car. It's been a total blast to have. So cool. It looks fantastic. It's great. Like, you'd think that it's the same thing as my American version, but it feels totally different. It's kind of crazy how different it does feel. And of course, driving it on the right-hand side is phenomenal as well. Let me know what exhaust you think I should be putting on the car. HKS, Greddy, or which one of those. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys on the next one.